Everybody, welcome back again to Spotlight on Addiction and Recovery. Scott Jones, your host, and we got a great show for you today. I want to remind you before we move on with the show, make sure that you like our channel, the ATC Network, like our channel on YouTube, subscribe to it, and hit that little bell there so you can get notifications next time we have a show. We're so glad you joined us, and my guest today is Dr. Donna Marks. I'm just going to call her Donna because she gave me permission, but you're
Please.
from Palm Beach.
Yes.
And Donna, what a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
We were talking, I wish, we were talking before we started the show, I wish we recorded that conversation because it flowed so brilliantly. It was so good. But I thought we'd bring up some of those topics on here. Perfect. Now, first of all, tell us about what you do.
Well, I'm a psychotherapist. My office is in Palm Beach, Florida, but I've been in the field for over 32 years and working in mental health and addictions. And as a result of that, my practice has evolved into really just working with people intensively one-on-one. But I've also had a lot of experience in education about addictions and mental health in the treatment centers and in the local community college. I've implemented an addiction training program there that's now a 4-year degree. And so I've had a lot of experience in working in the field, yes.
Why? You're obviously very intelligent. You could probably do anything you want. Why addiction?
Well, I was born into a family with addiction. There was alcohol, there was cigarettes, appeared to be sex addiction. And there was just a lot going on. And so it troubled me. I was very disturbed as a result of that. And I tried to cope. I had a spiritual connection when I was really, really young, which helped me to cope. It's not your fault. I would get those kinds of messages, which were very helpful. But then by the time I was a teenager, like so many people, by the time you're there and things aren't getting better, they're only getting worse. I fell into my own addictions. I started smoking. I started drinking. And, took quite a while before I started smoking when I was 12 years old. I got that immediate hit, of relief and numbing out. And that set the tone. And I went into recovery when I was 31. And I was very interested. There wasn't much available at the time. So I did a lot of research when I was working on my doctorate degree in adult education. I only had a few years of recovery, but I researched a lot to try and find bits and pieces of what worked and what didn't work. And I spent 23 years of my life in the field and working on myself, but I realized I wasn't any better. Emotionally, I wasn't any better. So I actually relapsed after that. And then I went back into recovery after a couple years and took a whole new approach, kind of threw out what didn't work and kept the good stuff, and then really did that more internal, deeper work on myself. Even though I'd had so much therapy, one of the things I talk about in the book, Exit the Maze, One Addiction, One Cause, One Cure, I'd like to talk about why treatment fails. Because one therapist says one thing, one treatment center says another, a psychiatrist says something else, a physician says something else, and there just isn't enough cohesion.
It seems like everybody's scrambling for that magic moment where somebody can give them a genie swap and they're no longer addicted.
Yes.
And that's not what you're proposing at all. When you're saying one addiction, one cause, one cure, you're not talking about curing the addiction. It goes away and it's gone forever.
Correct.
Because that's
no. Of course, someone who has an addiction can never safely engage in that behavior again. But the cure I'm talking about is that you won't want to. The thought of doing something to your body that is unloving or toxic, emotionally or physically, is going to be the farthest thing from your mind. And that's what makes my approach different, that I teach people how to get into that place where they care so much about themselves. They value their body and their mind as a temple. And so they learn how to love themselves because, honestly, we use that word a lot, but we don't really know how to love ourselves. And that's so important.
Yeah, this isn't a kumbaya kind of sit around a campfire love. No. We're talking about a respect and an appreciation for who you are and why you're here.
Yes, and that's the key, why you're here. I had a lot of trauma in my life, an awful lot of trauma. Right. And it broke me down, and I'd rebuild, and it'd break me down, and I'd rebuild. And some of it was self-inflicted, and some of it wasn't. And I was really mad about that. Before I relapsed, I was really mad. Like, I've done so much to get better, and how come I'm not better? And I was really angry about that. But then I realized when I had my next awareness that all of that made sense, because all of that was to help me fulfill my mission and my purpose here, which is to help as many people recover from addiction.
And I think some people watching, Donna, are going to be saying, well, that's great for you, but what's my purpose? How does somebody even attempt to find purpose besides looking at other people and trying to adopt theirs?
Yes. Well, we all have a purpose. We all have a gift. Every single person is here for a reason. And you probably knew when you were little, you had ideas about what your purpose is. And that got washed away by trauma or addiction or dysfunctional family stuff. And we fall into that trap of going, oh, I'm this or I'm that. I mean, I don't see myself as a victim at all. I see that my addiction is a gift. It's a blessing in disguise. And so that gift to me, and then the skills that were given to me just as part of being alive and God-given, that all came together to help me to help as many people as possible. And I don't care if someone works for the post office. I don't care if they're an artist. I don't care if they're an attorney. I don't care if they're doing their thing like you are, which is so beautiful. You are fulfilling your purpose.
Right.
And once we, reconnect with that part of ourselves, and we learn how to love ourselves, and then consequently we actually do then know how to love other people, our lives are so magical and so fulfilling that the thought of doing anything to ruin that is we just don't think about it anymore. Like, addiction is something I used to do.
Absolutely. And that's something I had to learn. Similar to you, I had a great deal of time, and I had many years in recovery, double digits, and then I relapsed because I was looking at addiction in the wrong way. I was looking at it as it's something outside of myself.
Right.
I may as well have caught it from a toilet seat, right? It was just, it wasn't me. And it was when I came in the second time and I realized, addiction isn't a different part of me. It's me, myself. It's my thinking. It's my attitudes. And I could no longer reconcile and say, well, I was just sick. I had to look at it and say, no, I was doing bad things. It made me a bad person. But if I had the choice to become a bad person, I also have a choice not to be that person.
Right.
And that's where I found the key to my recovery, which was anytime somebody tells me I can't, I want to.
Yes.
But if I say I don't want to, I never will.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what became important to me. So you'll never catch me sitting and saying, well, I can't drink.
Right.
I've proven I can.
Right.
With the best of them. But I don't want to drink becomes a whole different animal.
Yes.
And that's where I have to exist today. And I think that's what you're talking about. When you get to that point where it's like, I have no reason for it. It doesn't have room in my life, and I don't want it.
Yes. And I just love it that you said that you, after decades, that you relapsed like I did.
Yes.
And I think that that's really important that we talk about that, because why did the treatment fail? I don't want to blame anybody. We can't blame the government. We can't blame the legal system. We can't blame the doctors. We can't blame the therapists. We can't blame AA. We are responsible. And now we have the tools. Now we know what we need to do to stay sober. And it isn't just not drinking or not eating or not watching porn or not shopping. It's a lot more than that. It's doing that inner healing and asking those hard questions, like you just said, to yourself. You sit down and you ask those questions. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. I had a spiritual experience that told me, you go back into those rooms tomorrow and you start over and you hold your head up high and don't let anybody look down at you. And it was the most wonderful feeling, and I carry that with me to this day. And I feel like even that relapse was a gift. Not that I say you need to do that. I'm not encouraging anybody to do that.
Yes.
I mean, I certainly, wouldn't think that that's a good thing to do. What I would like people to do is, if they're not feeling good, like so many people in recovery are not, they're not happy, joyous, and free. And so they say, screw it. And that's kind of what I did, screw it. And so, but I don't want you to say screw it. I want you to say, wait, I'm just not there quite yet. I just need to go a little deeper into myself and take a harder look at myself and use these tools in a better and different way.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think there's a failing in people that are unwilling to find joy in recovery.
Mhm.
There's a failing in people who are unwilling uh, to build goals and to have things to look forward to.
Yes.
Sometimes they get so wrapped up in the one day at a time they forget that's just about the craving in the moment.
Yes.
But you still have to look forward to it tomorrow, or else how are you going to know what clothes to buy today if you don't know what you're going to use them for tomorrow? You've got
Right.
to have direction, and you've got to
Right.
have those things.
Yes.
But you mentioned something at the beginning, which is very important, and I want to talk about that. You talked about cohesion of treatment, and it is so disjointed. We've got MAT programs, we've got like tough love programs, we've got therapeutic programs, we've got 12-step programs. Everybody's all over the place. Everybody's looking for that magic answer. How are we ever going to bring everybody together so we can deal with this and have a generalized understanding of what we're dealing with? How are we ever going to get there?
Yeah, I hope that we can. Again, I think that by doing shows like this, to help people who have addictions understand that they do have an addiction, number one. Just because they don't have a needle in their arm or they're not staggering around with a brown paper bag doesn't mean they don't have an addiction.
Right.
Almost everyone has some type of dependency or some type of backed up demand that they depend upon to feel okay. So I want people to understand what addiction actually is. It's that emptiness inside. It's that void that something is missing. And then it's that endless quest to fill that void with things that never fill it and only create more and more of a void. So I want people to understand that. And then we can start addressing addiction from a different place. So if you're going to treat that void with narcotics, I don't know how that's ever going to heal the void. It might mask it, just like illegal drugs or alcohol or whatever. And also, I want people to understand that if they don't heal that internal void, then they're just going to switch around from one addiction to another. That's why someone quits doing cocaine, they start drinking, or they stop drinking and they get on the porn site, or they go into recovery and they become a love and sex addict. I mean, I did all these things. I quit smoking. I started eating. I didn't want to gain weight, so I started bicycling up and down the coast of Florida, and then after that, marathon running. And then the spiritual junkie. Go to this workshop. Go to this seminar. Israel, Peru, shamanism, Kabbalah, da da da. And I was just, just like it was. I didn't realize I was still an addict. I was still an addict. I hadn't changed. My core, my inner self had not been through that rigorous self-examination. Even though I had 20 years of therapy, it was just another quest for another fix.
So you were attacking even healthy activities with an obsessive,
right? Of course,
almost a sick mind.
Yes, absolutely. And then the relationships, and the marriages and the kids. I mean, it just was a never-ending. No wonder I didn't feel better after 23 years.
I so totally get you. Relationships and watching an addiction taking members of my family, down a dark road. So I've got to experience like the end of being the child of addiction,
yes.
To being the addict, to being the parent of addiction, and seeing all the different sides. It's painful every direction.
Yes.
But I love the idea of, if you can find that, for lack of a better term, I'm going to use the word enlightenment and the sense of self. And if you can find that fulfillment within yourself, how big of a dent do you think that would make in addiction?
Well, I just like to say you're not going to find it anywhere else but in yourself.
Right. Well, no, I went on Amazon. I looked for enlightenment. I couldn't afford it. Now I got to get it on my own. No.
Right. But I mean, I think that's what, the quest for this and the quest for that. And I fell into that trap. And so we have within us what we need. All the love or all the enlightenment or all the whatever we're looking for, we have it within ourselves. We just have to take the time, rather than searching out there, to go inward and to do self-reflection and to do self-care and to do things that connect us, whether it's listening to the Beatles or watching a sunset or, taking a hot bubble bath with the salts that make you feel all warm and nice, and are you helping someone else, or you're calling a friend, or you're just making sure that you eat healthy. I mean, these are things that enlightenment is. It's love. It's all a form of love. So whether it's mental or physical or giving back, when that's why the 12-step programs do work when people work them, because they're giving back. They're helping new people, and you get such a good feeling. You realize you're not so empty when you draw from within and help another person.
Right.
So the more selfless that we can be and take care of ourselves, and that balance between the two of loving yourself first, taking good care of yourself, and then giving back. And then again, back to, what's your mission, what's your purpose, and fulfilling that. It all ties together. That's enlightenment.
I would love somehow, and maybe you got some suggestions on maybe some exercises that somebody can do, because there's a lot of people out there sitting and listening, and I don't blame you because I've been there, who say, yeah, that's good for you, but I'm dead inside. There's nothing. There's not nothing.
Right.
So are there any suggestions you can give? And this is definitely, we don't want to do the Dr. Phil armchair psychology thing.
Right.
But is there something where you can, like exercise that you can suggest where maybe they can have a moment of self-reflection or see themselves a little differently? Is there anything they could do?
Actually, on my YouTube channel, Dr. Donna Marks, I have 3 meditations, one for emotional healing, one for physical healing, and one for spiritual healing. And they're not real long. I think the shortest one is 17 minutes, one is 28 minutes. But just taking that time, and there's some beautiful videography in there that my website designer did. But if they just take the time, you don't even have to close your eyes. You can just look at the beautiful colors swirling around and listen to the messages, and that will help you to connect to that inner self. As long as your heart's still beating, you're still here. And there's a reason why you're still here. And you don't have to be some kind of guru. You don't have to be the Dalai Lama. You don't have to be a therapist. You only have to open up. And by that, I mean just a little bit of willingness. I've been teaching A Course in Miracles for over 30 years, and it talks a lot about that. Just a little bit of willingness, which just means like, I do feel dead inside, but maybe I'm not. And just kind of open up, just kind of opening up to, but who am I? I heard a wonderful podcast one time. And it was during this coronavirus, and there was a guy who was addicted to pot, and he couldn't get his pot because of the virus. He didn't explain why he couldn't get his pot. I think that, drug dealers have more ingenuity sometimes than other business owners, but he couldn't get his pot. And on, the first 3 days, he was just angry and jonesing. And then on the 3rd day, he said he just sat there and said, who am I? And he never smoked again. He hasn't smoked since. He had a spiritual awakening simply by that little bit of willingness to answer that question for himself. And he realized who he was not a pothead. He's born here as a beautiful human being, and he's got reason and meaning and purpose. And so do all of us. And so if we just one moment get excited about that, then we're not here to sit here and just be addicted. I mean, we're here to love each other, to share and receive love, to connect, to be a part of. You're not addicted, you're lonely. I mean, I think somebody wrote that, and it's true. I mean, it's a disease of isolation. And addiction, it puts you in a box, and then it makes the box smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it squeezes the life out of you. So your life may have gotten so small that you feel you're dead, but you're not. You have to lift the lid off the box, open up with just a little bit of willingness, just a tiny little bit, and ask that question. Who am I? Why am I here?
I think a lot of people are looking for that, for lack of a better term, holy shit moment where it's like everything opens up, the skies open up, all the big answers come down, but that's not reality. I mean, that doesn't happen. I'm sure there's been cases, and somebody will argue with me that I had that moment, but but for me, I think, like you were saying, it's that you don't have to open the shades all the way. Once you start moving them a little bit and there's a crack, you can see the light coming through.
You can be in a pitch black room and a little teeny bit of light.
Yeah.
The room's never the same.
It changes everything. And, once you start to find something, hopefully that makes you hungry to find more.
Yes.
And
then you follow that light, and it leads you to more light and more light and more light.
I've been a lot of places. I've traveled around. I know you have too, but I think the most interesting place I've ever been is inside my own head, and because I got dragons, I got everything. Let me tell you, it's crazy up there.
A wonderful imagination.
But it's fantastic.
Yes.
It's fantastic for me to uncover things about myself and to see other people do that when the light comes on.
Yes.
I mean, those are the moments I asked you at the beginning, why the hell are you working in addiction? I mean, it's a heartbreaking.
Yes.
But no other field where you can see somebody and the light come on and you can see that change.
Yes.
That some of it is almost an immediate change when they make realizations.
Yes.
And then watch them grow. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's a beautiful thing. It's
It
so
really
wonderful.
is.
Yes. Yes, it's a tough profession, but it's a very rewarding profession because when people make it and they go through that transformation and they've lost themselves, not to mention everything else, no, then they get back. They come back. It's like probably what a doctor feels like when someone's died on the table and they resuscitate them. You know, just that excitement of return to life. And that's what recovery is. It's a return to life and return to who you are and why you're here. And, you know, it's just the most wonderful feeling in the world to witness it,
I love that. I love that. You know, there's so many things I want to talk about. Will you be able to come back and do some more shows with us?
Of course, I'd love to.
Because I'd love to talk to you more about trauma. We can do probably 20 shows on trauma.
Yes.
And other things. But
I would love to. And as I told you and Karen, when I sat in your workshop a few weekends ago, I was enlightened because I have gone to so many continuing education workshops over the years. I've been doing this since 1983. And I just sit there and I go, I just shake my head like, you know, this is like so archaic, and I see people who just aren't walking the talk, and
yes.
you know, and the hypocrisy, and you know, it makes me sad, you know, and I just kind of like, I do it to get the CEUs, but it's just not helping. So
right.
I went to your workshop and you were so professional and so animated and sharing your innermost selves and so authentic and so competent. You know, it's like I couldn't wait to get up after the class and just hug you guys because it was like, yay! There's some other people out here who are in the same thought process
right.
that have led you there from your own life experiences and your own educational experiences. So it's just, yes, I would definitely come back, and I'd love to share the journey.
Well, you were a joy to have in the workshop, absolutely. It was a pleasure getting to know you afterwards. And if you're interested in the Addiction Training Center's CEI, Certified Event Interventionist course, if you go to atceducation.com, you could sign up for the course right there. And just for watching right now, if you use the coupon code GetMyCEI, you can get the whole course for $199. So, and that is a NADAC certified 6 CEU course. It's about 6.5, 7 hours total if you go beginning to end, but it's broken into modules. Learn at your own pace online. Do the whole course online. Hopefully when COVID's over, we'll do a lot more live courses. We were lucky enough to do one with you guys, but we don't do them as much until the COVID crisis passes. But yeah, atceducation.com. Check us out. I appreciate the kind words about that too.
A friend of mine took your online course and loved it. She was able to do it at her own pace and thought it was fantastic.
Well, I loved it too because I got to change my shirt like 4 times, and I wore 4 different shirts, and I don't have one of my sparkly shirts on, nothing. But no, I loved it too. You know, I just mentioned COVID, and this time is really hard. Donna, we've got COVID going on. We've got quarantines. We've got people under great deals of stress.
Yes.
Talk about the perfect storm.
Yes.
For addiction
right.
and trauma and depression.
And the meetings are not, you know, they're online instead of in person, which is.
And you know what? For somebody who's got some time under their belt, a meeting online is probably interesting. I can go online and I can watch. I can participate in a 12-step group that's up in Syracuse, New York, where I first got clean. You know, I could do all of those things, and it's cool. But for somebody who's a newcomer, not to have that interaction, that face to face.
Yes.
Like you said, you want to get up and hug us.
Right.
You can't do that anymore.
Exactly.
So, any kind of words of advice? I mean, we're also going into a holiday season.
Right, which is also the worst because it brings up the where, you know, I'm all alone feeling.
It's alone, it's stress, it's pressure to perform and to gift
Right.
You know, if you want my list of gifts that I will accept. No, I'm kidding. Um, listen, no, really, I'll take anything. Money's good. But it's so much stress.
Yes.
Any suggestions for people on getting through it?
Yes. Well, there are meetings. You might have to look for them. So some people are meeting outside. Some people are meeting at clubs that they have a limited amount of seating and the social distancing and mask wearing. But it's also a good chance to reach out to people. You know, not everybody is afraid of the virus. I'm certainly not afraid of it. I'm doing the self-care, so I have no fear at all. And, you know, if someone called me and said, you know, can I talk or can you meet for coffee, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I know that there's a lot of people in the program that would also. So I would suggest finding where there are meetings being held, reach out, make those calls, you know, overcome your own fear. It's about choosing love over fear. If you really ever want to be sober, you're going to have to learn how to do that. Just step out of that box, get out of the, you know, get the lid off, get the sides down and get out of that box. And, you know, no one's going to force you out of there. It's a free will choice. And so, you know, no program that you want is anything other than free will. So you have to want to save yourself. So you want to get out of that box. You want to reach out and phone calls, get all the material that you can, whether it's audio or video, and immerse yourself in it. And my first Christmas, I was just a few years sober. I did just that. You know, I reached out to people. I planned a little event at my house with a few people. I didn't know that many people then. So with a few people came over and we had a little turkey thing at Christmas. I lighted a bunch of candles. I got some really nice music that was more new age kind of Christmas music. And I did things that made me feel good. And I just kind of sat with it. I didn't feel alone. I just embraced that I was. But I didn't feel it because I had taken some proactive measures to make sure I was going to be okay.
Fantastic. So, you know, you're not going to feel better sitting on the sofa feeling bad. You got to get up and do something. Make a phone call, take a walk, do something. Just get moving.
The next right thing.
Depression hates moving targets.
Yes.
It really does.
Yes. It
loves it when you sit down and you crack that can of Pringles and you watch some sappy movie. That's when depression loves you.
Yes.
You know, keep moving.
Exactly. Keep moving. And, you know, just like addiction and depression, it's more about loneliness. Yeah.
Absolutely. Donna, we can go on all day. I know you got things to do and I got things to do, so we're going to get back together again. We'll do another show very soon, I hope.
Exciting.
But if anybody wants to get a hold of your book or get information about you, where can they go?
The best place and probably the easiest is good on Amazon.com. And it's Exit the Maze, One Addiction, One Cause, One Cure. I also wrote another book, an award-winning book that's called Learn, Grow, Forgive, A Path to Spiritual Success. And that's also about breaking patterns, but it's more designed on, you know, just general living and how to achieve that state of happiness, self-contentment.
Okay. And do you have a website?
I do. It's www.drdonnamarks.com.
drdonnamarks.com.
Yes. And there's lots of free resources. The 3 meditations are on there. I do a weekly blog that's on there. So there's other things that people can do. They can register to be a part of that. I teach a free Course in Miracles every Wednesday night. So right now we're meeting on Zoom and live on Facebook. So people are welcome to step into that if they'd like. And so there's lots of resources there for people who are interested in this path.
Excellent. So I suggest you check it out at drdonnamarks.com. That's drdonnamarks.com. And find out more about the work she's doing and what resources are there for you. Certainly pick up a copy of her book, and we will invite her back again soon. Donna, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. I mean it. Thanks for joining us right here on Spotlight on Addiction and Recovery. Remember to like us on our YouTube channel, the ATC Network on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe and share us with your friends. We'll catch you next time. I'm Scott Jones, not Jonesin', just Jones. We'll catch you next time right here on Spotlight on Addiction.